Hi everybody. I'm going to bring a short form class to you right now, and I've been asked to just make it kind of basic with teacher trainees in mind, as well as anybody who's maybe newer to the practice and doesn't quite understand what Ashtanga is about and how to move through it. Ashtanga's always been one of my favorite practices. I've been practicing Ashtanga for almost 18 years now. It's not my sole practice. I don't do it 6 days a week anymore. There was a point in my life when I did. But it's a really solid grounding practice, and it can become really meditative, especially after you learn it. You don't have to think about it. You have nobody that, you don't have to have somebody lead you through it. You can just kind of do it on your own when you have the time, when you have the space. So please enjoy. I will offer some modifications for people who need help or different ways of stepping forward and back, jumping back and things like that. I will use Sanskrit, but I will also use English. And I think Sanskrit kind of keeps it authentic. It gives it a different feel from your standard slow flow and vinyasa class. And I think you'll come to learn it really quick. Even if you can't pronounce it, you'll come to understand it when you hear it. So without further ado, let's start. So almost always Ashtanga starts at the top of the mat. You stand over your own 2 feet, you root down through your feet, you reach up through the crown of your head, and right away you come to attention. In fact, sometimes this is called attention pose. Bringing attention to the body through the vehicle of the breath. Engaging the low belly, slightly tucking the tailbone under, Uddiyana Bandha. Beginning to grow that breath by hugging in through the throat a bit, making it Ujjayi Pranayama, victorious breathing. This breath will exclusively pass through nose. Let's start Sun Salutation A. Inhale, arms up, gaze up. Exhale, fold in, gaze in towards your belly. Half lift as you breathe in, gaze goes forward. Step back, top of push-up and lower. Now listen, you have 2 choices, a cobra, drop the thighs, or up dog onto the tops of the feet. And then downward facing dog for 5 breaths. Rooting down, breathing smoothly. Reaching up through the hips, elongating the back. So inhale, rise high, gaze forward. Step walker, float your feet up to meet your hands. Half lift when you get there and fill up. Exhale, fold in half and let all the air go. Inhale, rise, arms go out and up. Exhale, arms back to your sides, attention pose. Again, inhale, arms up. Exhale, fold in half, maybe a bit more deeply. Half lift Ardha. Chaturanga. Now you might even jump back. Up dog cobra. Downward facing dog, that same 5 breaths. Good, as you breathe in, come high on the toes, gaze forward and step walk, or maybe you attempt to jump, float. Half lift and fold in half. The inhale lifts you. The exhale brings you back to attention pose. 3rd round, inhale. Exhale as you fold in half. Halfway up, breathe in. Bottom of the push-up. Up dog cobra, downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Good, inhale, come high, gaze forward. Exhale, bring your feet up. Half lift. Fold in half, rise and reach, arms back to your sides. Fourth round. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Make sure you're breathing through your nose. Next breath in, come high, gaze forward, and again, deliver your feet. Half lift, fold in half. Rise, reach your arms out and up. Exhale, back to the original position. Last Surya A, inhale. Exhale, fold. Maybe you try to flatten your palms to the mat. Half lift as you inhale, and feet back and lower. Up dog, breathe in. Down dog, breathe out. Sink those heels. Draw the low belly in. Let the head hang. Keep your shoulders broad on your back. Good, inhale up on the toes. Exhale, step, walk, or float. Again, there are a lot of ways to get back up. Come halfway up and fold in half. Rise with straight legs. And we finish this fifth round here. Surya B, inhale, it starts with chair. So sink your hips, lift your arms. Exhale, fold in half and push your hips to the sky. Half lift still. Chaturanga. Urdhva Mukha. Adho Mukha. Now right away, step your right foot forward, turn the back heel flat. Virabhadrasana A. Exhale through the vinyasa. Other side. Left foot steps up. You rise to warrior, and you drop your hands and step back as you exhale. Inhale. Exhale, 5 breaths. Breathe in, rise high. Breathe out, bring your feet up. Half lift. And fold in half. Chair on the exit. This is an inhale. Exhale, stand tall. Again, inhale, chair. Exhale, fold. Inhale, lift. Exhale, bottom of the push-up. Inhale, up dog. Exhale, down. Right away, you step the right foot up and rise to warrior. Hands to the mat, chaturanga. Up and down. Left foot forward. Inhale, lifts you. Exhale, brings your hands back down to the mat. Up and down dog. 5 breaths. Good, rise high, gaze to your thumbs, step, walk, or float. Half lift, fold in half. Here we have the ending chair of round 2, so inhale, chair pose. Exhale, stand tall. Last set, inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale, right foot forward. Inhale, rise. Exhale, vinyasa. Left side, step and lift. Hands to the mat and down. Front side, back side, 5 breaths. Good, breathe in, gaze forward, exhale, feet up. Half lift, and fold in half. Chair pose to come out, and stand tall. Now we did 5 rounds of A and 3 rounds of B. You might find that we do 5 and 5 in the studio, but for sake of brevity today, we're just gonna do the 5 and 3. So we move into standing positions right from there. Feet hips distance apart, hands on the hips. Inhale, gaze up. Exhale, fold in half, Padangustasana, hand of big toe pose. You try to hook the big toes with the peace fingers of each hand. And then as you fold down, you draw the elbows out to the sides. So each standing pose will be 5 breaths each. It's not very much, but it's enough. Now come halfway up from there and try to slip your hands under your feet for Padahastasana, so you're standing on your palms. Now if you can't do that with straight legs, you give your knees a bend. It's a really nice release for your wrists. You want to apply some pressure there and fold the head in, whether your legs are straight or bent. Same Ujjayi breath. Right, this is the consistent part of our practice. The shapes change. Our feelings about them change, but not the breath. Come halfway up on the inhale, remove your hands, and exhale, hands to hips, just float right there. Inhale and rise. Exhale, back to that same attention pose. We're gonna start to step out to the right. So step your right foot back, turn the right toes to the back of the room, open your arms to a T and hinge out into triangle pose. So triangle down that right leg, gaze upward if possible. Good, on your next breath out, gaze down. This helps you get your bearings. Inhale, pass through center, and just switcheroo. Spin your feet, take that triangle to the left. Hand can hook the big toe, hand can stop at the shin or a block. Right arm to the sky, and if possible, the gaze goes up. Now if that bothers your neck, you can let your head hang. Right, there's no tradition that is worth sacrificing your body for. So if tradition doesn't work, do what works. On the exhale, gaze down. Inhale through center, Parivrita Trikonasana, revolve triangle. You're gonna spin to the back of your mat. Right leg should be in front. You're gonna lift your left arm and cast your left hand down, in or outside your foot, taking your right arm to the sky, turning that triangle, Parivrita, revolved. Again, gaze following the lifted hand if possible. On your next breath out, look down at the foot, get your bearings. Inhale, come through center, spin it back, and switch sides. Right hand comes down, in or outside that left foot, left arm spins to the sky, legs actively moving towards one another, bringing stability to the structure. There's one thing about ashtanga, nothing is very passive. Everything should be active. On the exhale, gaze down. Inhale through center, arms to a T, and step back up. Good, again to the right. Uttita Parsvakonasana, extended side angle. Bend that right knee this time. Either set your elbow down to it or set your hand to the floor. There's also a bind for some of you that works. But find a way to open your chest here and lunge deeply. If you can, gaze upward. On the next breath out, gaze down. Inhale through center, and off we go to the other side. So left side, bend that left knee. Elbow to knee or hand to the floor or bind. There are a lot of negotiables in this practice, but one one thing that shouldn't be negotiable is your breathing. So breathe through your nose. Maybe sit a little bit lower. Exhale, look down. Inhale through center, Parivrita Parsvakonasana. Revolved side angle, also known as prayer twist. So elbow over and across the knee. Now you'll notice I have my back foot planted, but for a lot of people that doesn't work with their hip. If that doesn't work for you, spin under your toes or set your knee down. Either way, try to get elbow across knee and really turn through your spine. Exhale, gaze down. Inhale through center and over to the other side. Maybe you're starting to experience that symmetry that ashtanga brings, that side to side, back and forth, kind of give and take action. Really breathe, twist, but make space for breath. One more breath in. Exhale, look down. Inhale through center, arms wide. And exhale back to the top. Stepping out to the right again. This time you're going to stay square on your mat. And I want you to slightly turn your toes in and your heels out. Arms wide. Exhale, dive forward. The first of 4 wide-legged folds. Hands to the mat. Come halfway up. And fold in. Planting your hands, letting your elbows bend back. Good, come halfway up from this first round. And exhale, bring your hands to your hips and just float right here. Inhale, rise. And exhale right there. To save time, keep your hands on your hips. Squeeze your elbows back, gaze up. Exhale, dive forward, Prasarita Padottanasana B. Squeezing the elbows back. Dropping the head away. Envision that you had a ball or something between your elbows and you're trying to keep it there in space. Now from B, on an inhale, you rise all the way up. And exhale. Inhale, arms wide. Exhale, bind them behind you, letter C. Inhale, roll the shoulders back, maybe gaze up. Exhale, dive into C, letting the head hang. Letting the hands move away from the back, but not forcing the issue too much. Good, on the inhale, rise all the way up. And exhale, put your hands back to your hips. One more, D, arms to the T. Exhale, dive forward and try to hook the big toes again with the peace fingers. Come halfway up, breathe in. Fold down and let the elbows drag out to the sides. The head come closer to the earth. And at this point, you might be feeling a little fatigue through your ankles, or maybe the inner thighs. Stick with it, keep breathing. This is you getting stronger. This is you becoming more stable. This is maybe you finding some muscles that don't often get challenged. Now come halfway up, breathe in. Exhale, hands to hips and float. Inhale, rise. Exhale, right there. Inhale, arms to a T. Exhale, step back up. One more step out to the right. Not as wide, and you're going to spin away from me. Bring your hands around behind for a reverse prayer, or bind the elbows. Breathe in, look up, maybe a little lean back. And exhale, Parsvottanasana, pyramid pose. Fold out over that right leg. Think of sliding your chin down your shin. Or sometimes we cue, imagine having a light in your heart and it's shining past your big toe. So this isn't really a dumping fold, this is an active reaching fold. Keep those legs active, like 1 foot on a dock, 1 foot on a boat. I don't know where I've heard that before. Inhale, rise up to standing. Keep the arms bound as you spin around. Take that deep breath in, maybe gaze up and look back. Exhale, dive forward again. Think of chin sliding down the shin. If the gaze can stay a bit lifted and it doesn't bother your neck, try to gaze out in front of your big toe. slightly pull the right hip forward and the left hip back. It gets tempting to kind of swing out to the side, keeping things squarish. Inhale, rise. Exhale, square yourself off. Inhale, open the arms. I like to wiggle my fingers here and step back up, top of the mat. And we're moving to the balancing sequence. Left hand plants on left hip, and I want you to actually feel that connection of hand to hip, kind of rooting your left foot down. I want you to really activate and push down through your left foot and feel the mat. Maybe wiggle your toes for a second. Feel the mat underneath you. Now with your left hand on your left hip, you're going to either bring your right leg straight out in front of you and catch it, hooking the big toe, or you could modify and hold the front of the knee, or even do kind of a little bit of a tree pose thing if bringing the knee up is too far. But pick your variation and take about 5 breaths here. Uttita Hasta Padangustasana, letter A, upward hand of toe A. B, the leg opens to the right. The gaze, if possible, goes to the left, away from the leg. Nice, bring the leg back through center. C is a fold over the leg, so reach out. Try to bring your body closer to the leg and the leg closer to you. And then letter D, leg stays lifted. Point or floint your toes. This is variation D. It's so much harder than it seems like it would be. So just hold one leg up straight out in front of you. It's temporary. Keep breathing. On the exhale, lightly set that right foot down. Now right hand to right hip. Feel the connection, hand to hip, foot to floor, really root down. Take your left hand out in front of you if you're bringing your leg out straight, and just try to float that left foot right up to the hand. I'm almost there, but I gotta reach that last second. Once you catch a hold of it, try to pull your shoulders back and not forward. Make sure you're breathing. Leg out to the side. Remember, you have modifications you can make. You can take a bent knee out to the side. Back through center, and you'll try to fold out over whatever you have. Bent knee, or maybe straight leg. And then leg stays lifted. Floint the toes if the leg is straight. Stand tall. Try not to squeeze the shoulders up into the ears and tense where you don't need to tense. Little bit higher, set the foot down. Now if you lotus all the time, you can move your right leg into lotus high on the left thigh. If you don't lotus, I'd prefer you to take tree pose here and skip the folding aspect. But if you do lotus, right foot across the thigh, active right foot, right hand might bind around and catch the right foot. Mine doesn't, but maybe yours does. And then you can layer in the fold, dropping the hand, bowing the head in. Ardha Baddha Padmottanasana. If you're folded in, slightly bend that standing leg so the knee isn't locked. Rise up slowly, try to kick out with control, and set the foot down. Other side. So again, you can do tree, or you can try to work that lotus. For whatever reason, my hand reaches my foot on this side, and then you can add the fold in. Again, if you're down, slight bend in that standing leg, protecting the knee as you rise. Kick the leg out with some sort of control if you can, and set the foot down. Full sun A. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, fold in. Halfway up, fill up completely. Step or float back, bottom of the push-up. That cobra up dog to down dog. But this time, right away, come up high in the toes and bring your feet to chair, Utkatasana. 5 breaths. Traditionally, the gaze would be upward. That seems to bother my neck in this pose. I generally don't do it. Again, pick what works for you. You could bring your hands together, but I feel like I compromise my shoulders when I do that, so I keep my hands slightly apart. Try to pull the shin bones back a bit. Engage the backside body. Halfway forward, Ardha Utkatasana. Imagine making a tabletop with your back. One more breath in. Plant the hands. Either stay here, bringing the knees to the backs of the arms and just kind of coming up on the toes, or working into crow, shifting the weight forward, gaze is out in front, Bakasana. Vinyasa. Stepping the right foot forward, turning that back heel flat, warrior A. 5 breaths now. Sink into it. If you've been fighting the intensity of the practice all along, submit right now. Let it be difficult. Keeping the arms up, inhale, straighten the right leg. Spin to the left side, same shape, same hip posture. One more breath in, and then open to warrior B on this side. First time in this shape through the practice. Roll the thighs away from one another. Open the chest. Let your gaze trail off the tips of your left fingers. Inhale helps you come through center. Exhale sinks you into B on the right. Final standing position. One more breath in. Hands to the mat. Vinyasa, step back and come down. Up dog. And down. Good, so we're coming through to seated. You might float through, jump through. Most of us stumble our way through or just kind of walk through to seated. These things don't matter that much. So when you come to seated, we have staff pose, Dandasana. Legs will be straight, feet will be flexed. Plant your hands next to your hips. Slightly bend your elbows back. As long of a spine as you can manage and a slight tuck of the chin forward. This is a great place to smooth your breathing out. To kind of gather the pieces of yourself up and be still for a bit. Right from here into Paschimottanasana A, seated forward fold. Try to hook the big toes. Come halfway up as you inhale. And as you exhale, actively folding out over the legs. If you can, elbows lift a bit. And if you can, gazes forward a bit. Now if that bothers your neck, you always have the option of letting your head hang. But you might be surprised that you can keep your head slightly elevated and neck still slightly long. And feel how that elongates you forward. This is A, come halfway up. Into B, hands around the outer edges of the feet. Push the big toe side of your foot away from you. Pull the pinky toe side of your foot towards you and fold back in. Elbows still elevated a bit. Breathe deeper through the nose. Now this is kind of where I get off on the Paschimottanasana train, but maybe you can move to C. It's a half lift and a hand binding a wrist. I can kind of just grab my fingers here and fold in. So you can stick with B or A. You could even back off of it and take a bit of a break for a few breaths. Now as we rise up, we're going into Purvottanasana, which is almost the opposite shape we were in. And in my opinion, one of the hardest shapes in short form or primary series ashtanga. It's reverse plank. So you can modify by bending the knees and making it reverse table, like this. Or you can work on that full reverse plank and trying to get the big toes to touch down to the floor when you do so. So go ahead and press up and breathe. Good, lower the hips. Crisscross the ankles, try to get a little bit of a bump up and maybe a swing through or step or stumble your way through a vinyasa. We meet in down dog. So coming through to seated, Janushirasana A, right foot inside the left thigh, right knee is allowed to drop open, and you're gonna take your chest and fold over your left side. So reach out and grab a hold of something or bind a hand around a foot and fold in. Let it be just enough. Right, that's really where the edge is. It's just enough. But on the other side of it, it's not enough, right? So you want to crawl right up to that point, not past it. Sensation is full and flush. Inhale, rise up. We're going to skip half vinyasas between sides, and we're just going to change sides and take a half vinyasa between. So same posture on this side, you might take a different variation. If you start to go to ashtanga classes when you can go places again, you might find that studios and teachers teach it differently. I teach it differently as well, depending on the students I have in class and the time I have. There are a lot of options for extra vinyasas. Inhale, rise up, half vinyasa. Back through to seated. Marichasana A, we're gonna do A and C today. So for A, it's a forward fold in the knee, the thighs really close into you. This will help you fold forward. This will also help you if you want to try to bind. So you're gonna reach out and either grab the foot with both hands, or you're gonna take this right arm. You have to wrap it around the front of the shin, and notice that I have to at least clear my elbow. If possible, clear my shoulder as well. Right arm wraps around, left arm around the back, and you fold forward. Same business, chin moving down shin. Breath active. This left leg, my foot isn't passive, it's active, it's flexed. Nice, rise up and switch. Try to bring this leg as close to you as possible. Reach forward and grab, or reach forward and bind. Good, slowly come up. Take that half vinyasa, and again, you could just rest in seated if you feel like you do not need any more. Nice, coming back through. C is a twist. So left foot out in front, right knee still really close to you, right hand plants behind you, but you don't dump all your weight into it. You want to still use your spine, your core to stay active. Elbow across the knee. Turn if you can, turn your gaze as well. Left leg stays active the whole time. One more breath in. Exhale, gaze forward. Switch sides. Breathe. Twisting deeply, but again, never twisting so much that you compromise your breath. Coming back through center and vinyasa. Coming back through to seated. So in short form, we don't hit nearly all the seated postures that you would get in a full primary series. We have to kind of pick and choose, and I'm picking and choosing the ones that are generally offered in a studio or in a short form practice that you might find online. So the next posture that would generally come, we've skipped quite a bit, is boat pose, Navasana. Lots of options for boat, right? Bent knees like I'm showing in this first round. I'll give you another option in a moment, about 5 breaths. And then in between, you crisscross and we try to bump. We try to lift everything up off the mat. And sit back down, second round. Maybe you straight leg it. Maybe you extend your arms as well. You should be shaking. That's about 5 breaths, crisscross, bump, whatever you can. And your bump might look something like this. Ugh, that's okay. Come back to boat. One more breath in, crisscross and bump. If you would like, you could play around with handstands here, vinyasa, or rest. Good, coming back through to seated. Baddha Konasana. Feet together, knees open. Notice that I'm trying to drop my knees. If possible, if it's an option for you to not squeeze your knees up, I want you to let them drop down. It is what it is. You might find that no matter how much you try, your knees stay upright quite a bit. The letter A is to just tuck the chin, very similar to staff pose. Straight spine, eyes can close here. Regulate your breath. Letter B, you fold with a flattish back. So the fold probably doesn't open that much or go that far. You'll notice if you go much farther, your back starts to round. Save that for C, just a couple breaths. Now letter C, you let yourself round, your head drop down towards your toes. Good, inhale, rise up. Again, an option for half vinyasa, or you could skip it. Good, coming through to seated now and down onto the back. We're gonna get one more what's considered a seated posture before we move into closing, and that's reclined hand of toe pose, A, B, and C. So come down under your back, bring your right knee into your chest, reach for your right big toe, and then curl your head and shoulders up. As you pull your leg towards you, you let your left hand just float over your left leg, and you want to root or anchor your left leg down. I don't want you to float your leg here. It's a Pilates exercise. You can do it another time, but right now I want you to root that leg down, find stability there so that you can lift away. This is A. Lower your head for B. Let your leg open to the side. Now, you have options with the opening, right? So you can open it straight like I just did, or maybe you take a bent knee out to the side, or you even bring a yoga block or something over here to kind of prop your leg on. We want to try to keep the hips open if possible and not roll off of the left hip to get the leg out to the side. Nice, leg back through center, and you're gonna reach up and fold towards the leg as you pull the leg towards you. Both hands now engaged. Breathe, and release. Other side. Hook that big toe. Let your right hand float over your right thigh. Engage your belly. Lower the head and shoulders, letter B. See what it's like on this side. It might be quite a bit different than it was on the other. You can drop this arm out as a counterbalance. This is not a practice today for yoga ashtanga purists, right? So we're not necessarily doing everything just so. Just so works for so few people. I want this to work for as many people as possible. Bring the leg back through center, reach up and grab, fold towards your leg, fold your leg towards you and breathe. Again, you have options. The knee can be bent. Don't be scared to experiment. This is just one practice. Lower everything down to the earth. Gather the knees in for a moment. Rock and sway. We're going to move into what's called the closing sequence, and it starts with back bends. So I'm going to rock up for a moment as you set up. I'm going to explain what's going on here. You're going to stay on your back. You're going to move into bridge, which is, pressing into your feet and lifting your hips up with your head and shoulders down. Or you're going to move up into wheel. And wheel requires that you plant the hands and have some degree of openness and strength in your shoulders. 3 rounds of back bends and 5 breaths apiece with a resting breath or 2, but very minimal rest between these rounds of back bends. So I'll start. You could maybe already have started. I'm pressing up into your first one. Try not to let your knees splay out. Keep them in line with your hips. Feel your feet rooting into the mat. That's about 5 breaths, so I lower down, I pause. I'm going to pause for just a breath and then go right back up into my next one. This time I'm interlacing my hands underneath, rocking a little side to side to get my shoulders a little further underneath me, working on expanding a little bit more through the front side of my body. One more breath, and coming down. Again, just a pause. Another bridge, or I'm going to work into bow right now. 5 breaths. One more breath. Release. Try to come down with control, not crashing down onto the mat. Gather the knees in. Rock up to seated. And we get a 15 breath, well-deserved, kind of passive forward fold here. This counters out all the forward or the back bending we just did. Ashtanga is very concerned with being rather symmetrical, having things be kind of even. So in this forward fold, as opposed to the other one where we actively pulled forward, you could just let your body round forward. You could even slide your arms under your thighs. Let things simmer down. Slowly coming out, and if you need a few more breaths, take a few more breaths. We're going to ease ourselves down onto the back again, and we're going to move into the shoulder stand sequence. If shoulder stand is not good for your neck, and there's a lot of people for whom it's not good, just skip it and take legs up the wall. There's no point to prove here. But if you're going to go into shoulder stand, I'd even encourage you to remove a ponytail that's low, anything that's going to kind of impede the movement of the head and put pressure against your neck. So you're going to come into shoulder stand or legs up the wall. Maybe going to plow first if you're shoulder standing. Hands to the mid or lower back. Reaching up through the balls of the feet. Active legs pulling up. You want to even imagine the weight pulling out of your head by pulling up through your feet. Gaze lovingly at your belly. Right, everybody has at least a little bit of extra skin here, a little bit of folding over out of your yoga pants. Breathe. Always coming out of it if it doesn't feel right. Not waiting for any permission. Your neck is too precious to mess with. Now, if you're in shoulder stand and you feel okay with moving to plow, you pike the hips so that the toes can come to the floor behind you. Maybe you interlace your hands on the mat. Pressing up through the backs of the legs if you're in plow. Now an alternate, if you're not in shoulder stand or plow, is to take happy baby here. Those of you in plow can bend the knees down towards the ears and try to squeeze into your ears or temples. Karna Idasana. Can't get much more awkward than this. Now slowly coming out of it wherever you are. Try to move with control. Slower the better. Maybe even letting the legs come down straight to the mat. Working on core engagement. Right into fish when the heels come down. Point the toes, puff the chest up, lean the head way back. If the crown of the head comes down, great. If not, it can float. One more deep breath in and release. Good, bring the knees in. Rock and sway a bit again. Rocking up to seated. We're gonna move into headstand or headstand prep. So this is another one of those shapes that is not one size fits all. If you're an active and experienced headstander, just go ahead and move right now into it. I will talk through some before steps that you can move into and stop at. Ideally, you stop where you feel comfortable. So I want you to come down to the forearms and measure out the distance first. By taking the hands to the opposite arm, they should be able to grab the arm. You want to keep your elbows right there as you release the hands and make a basket. Now you're going to set the top of your head, not the forehead, the top of your head into this basket. This is, by the way, Salamba, bound headstand. This is one of the headstands that we get in short form ashtanga, Shirsasana. So head comes down to the hands. You really activate here through the forearms, through the shoulders. They're not passive, they're active. And maybe you stay with just this, feeling pressure into the crown of your head. Next step would be to hike the hips up like down dog and walk the feet forward a bit and make sure that you're using your arms. Next step would be to take one leg up off the mat and maybe you float the other leg for a moment off the mat. After that would be to lift up. Be warned that if you kick up in the headstand, you very well may somersault over. So I think it pays to take the time to be able to lift with your muscles rather than just use momentum and kick. I'm using my arms so much here that I could lift my head up off the mat a bit. This is Shirsasana, Baddha, bound. We're going to try for Ardha halfway down, hiking the hips and noticing that the hips have to actually move back to counterbalance the legs going forward. Just 5 breaths. And back up. Make sure you're breathing through your nose. If you're starting to gulp or gasp, come down. And slow and controlled, bring yourself down into child's pose. Only when you feel ready, coming up, coming back to seated. Now, there are lots of different ways to end the practice. One of my favorite is with the lotuses. You don't have to move into full lotus, and in fact, if it just bothers your knees or your ankles to be in lotus, simple cross-legged is fine. We're going to start with Baddha Padmasana, bound. So hands around behind. Maybe you can grab your toes. I'm not even close. But go ahead and fold in. If you can't grab your toes, you can bind around your elbows. 5 breaths here. I like to think of this shape as tying up of loose ends, wrapping things up. And then coming up and sitting in cross-legged or lotus. Hands simply rest on the knees. Relax a little bit. Let things slow down. Maybe you feel a bit of a buzzing sensation in your body, an aliveness, a tingling. Maybe you feel a bit lightheaded, not used to so much oxygen to your brain. Soak it in. Good, and finally we're going to try to do a little bit of a lift here. There are a lot of different forms of breath that are used in this final kind of lift of lotus. We're gonna just use Ujjayi today for simplicity, and we're gonna try for just 5 deep Ujjayi breaths, lifting whatever you can, and you might be able to lift 0, and that's fine, still take those 5 breaths. But if you can, plant the hands, lift up, start to breathe. And lower. Final half vinyasa. You can try this little party trick if you want. Or not. From downward facing dog, we're going right to rest. Shavasana. And just like that, it's done. Ashtanga starts kind of abruptly and it ends kind of abruptly. See how quickly you can allow yourself to drop in. To be as friendly with stillness as you were with movement. To be as comfortable in both worlds. I'd encourage you, if you have the time, you probably do, to just hit the stop or the pause button on this video and take a good 5 more minutes to rest. Who knows, maybe 10. Maybe it turns into a nap. But give yourself the time you need to come back to a point of equilibrium. To allow the heart to slow, and it probably already has. The breath to become a little softer, and again, it probably already has. To just give yourself the gift of stillness and silence for a bit. For as active as Ashtanga is, again, it's very meditative. You probably can really feel that in this final Shavasana. If you give yourself some time.